Hey guys, Jonathan Doyle with you again. Welcome back to the Daily Message. I hope you had a chance to listen to yesterday. We talked about a great quote from Rudolf Dreikurs. Before I jump into today's, please make sure you've subscribed. Hit that subscribe button. These messages are short. They come out every day, give you a little bit of encouragement as you go about your day. So please hit subscribe, hit the notification button. And I have released my original book, Bridging the Gap, as a downloadable, multi-part free book for you. So if you haven't grabbed it, grab the link below. You'll see it there. And I'm going to send you one short chapter. It's very short. I'm going to send you one every 2 days for about a week. And I think it's really going to help you. So grab that free access to my book. Now, you ready? Let's do it. We're going to do a quote today from the incredible Marcus Aurelius, one of the giants in the Stoic universe, the universe of Stoic philosophy. He was also a Roman emperor. Imagine this. That's quite an impressive CV. Let's do it. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Okay, if you are not familiar with Stoic philosophy, let me give you a 30-second introduction. I guess the Stoics were the first to kind of say, look, life is pretty difficult. You know, their time in history, life expectancy was probably 35, maybe. Disease, death, infant mortality was off the charts. Life was difficult. Food scarcity was a thing. Your chance of getting overrun by some other nation, tribe, or empire was pretty likely. So the Stoics took a position of, wow, life is kind of nice. Like there's flowers and there's nice things and there's friendship and there's pleasures that we have. But there's also this great deal of suffering that happens. So they were trying to deal with the question of how do we deal with that? You know, if you look at I'm no expert on Buddhism, but the Buddhist philosophy is the transcendence of suffering, right? So that you extinguish desire, you don't want anything, you learn to get rid of all desire, and then you don't suffer, and then you enter nirvana, you have transcendence. For my Buddhist friends out there, I've probably just done a hatchet job on one of the great world religions, so please forgive me, but I do know that what the original, what Buddha was trying to do was address the question of suffering. And so the Stoics are doing it too. The Stoics took a different approach, was how do you accept it? Instead of extinguishing desire, how do you accept the reality of suffering? And how should you act in the face of it? How should you conduct yourself when life is difficult? Isn't that a great question for us? How should we conduct ourselves in the face of difficulty, suffering, loss, and adversity? It is okay to jump up and down, have a meltdown, but then what do we do after that? I remember there was a point early in COVID when, all my US speaking had stopped and I was just so frustrated. I was really frustrated at the way that the governments were dealing with it. And I blew up. I was downstairs in my house talking to Karen and I had a tantrum, friends. I had a tantrum. And so it's okay. When life's difficult, we can get upset. But then what do we do? How do we manage it? So what Marcus Aurelius is telling us today is, let's begin with the first point. We don't have control over much of outside events. You don't get to control earthquakes. You don't get to control tornadoes. You don't get to control an unexpected tragic cancer diagnosis or the loss of a friend or family member tragically. We don't. We're not God, right? Like we don't. There's so much of reality that we don't get to control. And one of the illusions of modern culture, as I said a few days ago, is this veneer of pleasure and comfort and safety. That's great, right? Like compared to our ancestors, we have flushing toilets. We have a whole bunch of really good stuff. But we have this veneer of safety. And I think part of the problems with the overreactions of COVID was this idea, this safetyism, right? This idea that we can somehow mandate or create this insulated bubble of protection, which isn't true. We can't. The reality is that we're born, we live, we die. Yes, we can manage a lot of the risks, but eventually we have to accept that we are not in control of a great number of things. So what do you do with that? So throughout history, people have been finding different ways to deal with that uncomfortable truth. You can deny that truth. You can avoid that truth. You look at, say, hedonism, right? Like this idea of you just pursue rampant pleasure. That life's arbitrary, it's unknowable, there's no meaning in the universe. So just go out there, run amok, get as much pleasure as you can. And that's the point. So can we agree that throughout history, people have had all these different philosophies? So what we want is a philosophy that works, that helps us to contribute to others, that helps us to grow and develop, that helps us to love and to serve. So what Aurelius is telling us here is We can't control what's happening outside. On the big stuff, there's definitely what Stephen Covey used to talk about this, right? The locus of control, the circle of control, and the circle of concern. There's great big global events we can't do much about, but there are smaller things in our own little orbits that we can. So we want to deal with that. We want to control what we can control. But all the other stuff, we have to learn to manage our thought processes around it. This has been one of the greatest revelations of my life. Coaching the team that I coached yesterday, I was trying to help them realize that, you can control your thoughts. They happen so quick. I spent most of my life thinking you can't, but you actually can decide what you think. You can. Do you really know that? If you get anything out of today's message, it's this, that you actually can control your thoughts. You actually can manage the content of what you allow to go through your brain. So at the moment, as I'm recording this, you may be seeing this as it comes out, or you might be seeing it much later. Inflation is going nuts, and my other hat that I wear is in macro finance and investment. And, I kind of know the deep roots of this inflationary process, what's actually driving it. It's a story for another day, but it's happening. So you can jump up and down, you can get stressed, you can get depressed, you can get all political, you can do whatever you want, or you can control your thinking and go, right, this is the reality, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? You apply this to any issue that you're facing. You got a difficult person at work. Well, that's a reality. Yes, there's things you can do. There's a whole bunch of strategies that you might use. But the first strategy is that you've got to get control of your thinking. You've got to get control, and you just got to say, is it positive? Is it negative? Is it helping me to grow? Am I going to be a better person? This is hard. So me telling you this, I wrestle with this. I fight with this. And related to this is this idea that, look, this goes back to a lot of the early personal development thinking. And sadly, I think this idea that I'm about to share got kind of... it lost a lot of credibility with that book, The Secret, and the movie. This magical idea that you can kind of just, think something into existence. I want a Tesla. Where's my Tesla? Right? But behind it is an idea that our thoughts basically have a charge, that they have a positive or negative charge. And I guess they do at the level of brain chemistry, right? Because your thoughts really are electrochemical impulses in your brain. Synaptic charges, right? Tiny minuscule charges of electricity moving through myelinized synapses in your brain. So there is a charge component to our thoughts. And some people would argue that the positive or negative charge in our thinking tends to shape a lot of our experience of reality. So that if your thoughts are predominantly negative, and we've all experienced it, right? Those times when we're just like, and we're just like, what's the point? What's the point? And that negative thinking creates a whole negative feedback loop. Whereas, remember the times in your life when you feel amazing? You feel $1 million, you want to run out, you just feel so pumped. There's a different energy, right? There's a different energy in your thoughts. There's a different energy. The simplest example of that is imagine, watching a favorite sporting team. Imagine if you have a team that you've loved since you were young, or, just work with me here, and you're at a grand final and there's 2 seconds to go and your team wins. Like, how many of you were just like, oh, that's great. I'm glad they won, I guess. What actually happens is the entire crowd just goes crazy. You use your body differently. Your thinking's different. And you get this charge. So this is longer than I wanted to go, but, Marcus Aurelius in today's quote is reminding us that maybe we don't get to control a fair bit of what's happening, but there is one part we can control, and that's the thinking that we bring to it. And I just want to encourage you, because I spent most of my life thinking that you just couldn't. I spent most of my life thinking that, well, this is just how I think, and this is reality, and it's like, no, you do get to control it. Isn't that good news? I think it's good news. Good news to know that you can actually control what you think. All right, that's it from me today. Please make sure you subscribe. Grab your free access to my book, Bridging the Gap, in the link below. Share this with a few friends. My name's Jonathan Doyle, and I'm going to have another message for you tomorrow.